website. We are very pleased with it. We think it offers a much cleaner, sleeker, more user-friendly experience to our customers. So this is our front page. The picture here changes. The big things I'd like to point out for everybody is most of the things that our residents are looking for on the city's website can now be found underneath this How Do I tab. Under there, you can find how to apply for a city job, how to contact the city, how to find resolutions, ordinances the commission passed, how to pay your utility bill, how to report an outage. You can report your power outages to the city online, as well as streetlight outages. If you want to rent a building, that's there. The question we get a lot is, how do I sign up for emergency notifications from the city? Remember that the person wants an emergency notification. They either need to be a city utility customer with up-to-date information in the utility billing system, or they need
Okay, that's working really good there. I didn't get it. But the two that you just mentioned, the emergency notifications and the email subscriptions, folks, I can't stress enough. I get a lot of comments. I get a lot of questions. How was I supposed to know about that? How did he know and I didn't know? And even if you have previously signed up your information, if you change your phone number, if you change your address, you have to go back in and update that. So please, folks, if you really want to know if there's a boil water notice, if you want to know when an agenda, when a meeting is being called, go to the website, sign up, and it'll notify you automatically, and it treats everybody equally and fairly. As long as you put the correct information into the website, you'll get that notification. So those two features that Dallas just went through, very, very important for staying in tuned and informed. Thank you, Dallas.
to cut down some of the middleman issues. Additionally, we have a staff directory if you need to get a specific person or want to get in touch with a specific part of the department. We offer that as well. So those are really the high points of the website. One of the things we are excited about that I didn't mention is this Find Available Properties. That was an add-on we added to the website as an economic development incentive program. In here, our economic development department can actually go in and list available key properties available for development within the city, as well as they can add the contact information for the broker or other relevant information. So business looking to come to Newberry can go right there and see all the relevant information. Additionally, with our new website as a kind of an add-on, not part of the website, but we did it all at the same time, we did upgrade our online payment portal for utility billing. It's it's mobile friendly now, so you can pay your utility bill a little easier online. It offers some more information about your consumption and usage. Additionally, we now have online job applications, so you can apply for a job completely online through the city's website, no more paper applications. One of the biggest benefits we've seen in this is our applications for jobs has increased tremendously. We used to get between 10 and 20, and we're receiving close to 200 applications for jobs now, which is putting a little work on the HR side of things, but we have a much bigger, broader pool to choose from. And then last but not least, we haven't gone live with it yet, but we are working on an online system for building inspections and building permits, as well as building payments, where a contractor can go in and either make their payments for their permits or their occupational business license, occupational sales tax online. But they can also go online and schedule their inspections and see the status of where their building permit is in the process. Additionally, in our general accounts receivable side, where we bill people, we're going to add an online payment portal there as well. So people we send kind of 1 and 2 bills to will be able to go and pay online as well. So. Any questions about the new website?
Does the board have any questions for Dallas? Commissioner Glanzer?
It's beautiful. Thanks for all your hard work on that. And you can guess my question. Could we call Brian, the planner, directly if there's new properties that come on the market, commercial, for development?
Yes,
Is that
Mr.
how you get it? How's that how he gets them in there? Or how does he? Okay.
Yes, Mr.
So
Mayor.
I think what Commissioner Glanzer said, if I want to put a property up, I need to call Brian,
Yes, sir.
myself, and tell him, or once it gets listed, it will automatically trigger.
They have to go in and manually put the properties, and it's going to have to be a key property that the city's identified as this is a property we need to develop for economic development, not just it's not like the MLS. It's just these are the properties we want our developers and businesses to look at for development.
Any other questions? Commissioner Martin?
In the avenue of development, economic development, is the agritech presentation on here?
It is not, but it certainly can be.
I asked about that.
It's in the queue to be loaded up. It's on the list of things that needs to be addressed sooner than later, but it has not been updated up to at this point.
Have we got that back from the consultant yet? That's what
We do have the slide deck presentation.
back.
It is back.
Any other questions from the board? Dallas, what's our timeline for the building permits and inspections and those kind of things? I know that's one of the more frequent requests I get.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, well, one thing I would like to mention, as you may recall, 2 years ago we got a grant that actually paid for this, so we're finally getting around to that portion of the grant, but we do have the money, so it's not coming out of the city's general fund tax dollars, it's coming out of a grant we got. The current timeline is the end of March for full implementation. We're going to start, the ADG, our software company, has finished all the back-end stuff and has the portal available. We're going to start with a soft rollout to some of our developers that we kind of handpicked to work us through all the bugs and the kinks, but then full rollout should be March or April.
Okay. Any other questions? Great job, Dallas. Keep it up.
Thank you.
We like these updates. Okay, Jamie. Unpaved city streets.
Good evening.
Illuminate us.
Well, if I can make the clicker work.
It's a brand new clicker. I hear it's idiot proof.
Well, I don't know if I qualify. The item before you, just for the commission's edification, is strictly for informational purposes only. We're not requesting any action at this point in time. We just wanted to bring the information forward and have the commission have a chance to discuss and get an idea of the unpaved roads we have in the core area of Newberry. As you're aware, the city of Newberry is responsible for maintaining all the roads within the city limits, the roads owned by the city and the roads that we maintain by interlocal for Alachua County. Some of the typical roadway maintenance things that we do is the mowing of the right-of-ways, the grading of unpaved roads, pothole patching, resurfacing paved roads, edging, traffic signals, traffic marking control and maintenance, and the litter pickup on these roads. Over the past 3 years, the commission has had numerous discussions about the ownership and maintenance and possible improvements to the roads in the city limits. As part of those discussions, some of the unpaved roads that come up quite frequently are Southwest 250th Street, Southwest 30th Avenue, Northwest 8th Lane, Northwest 282nd. But in those discussions, from time to time, is forgotten that we have some roads that have not been paved within the city limits itself. So the map that you see depicted there shows some of the small segments of unpaved roads within the core part of the city. A few examples of those. The majority of these unpaved roads, like I said, are short paved segments that connect paved streets. These roads total approximately 1.8 miles in length, and depending on the amount of stormwater facilities that you would have to construct to improve these roads, the improvement could range anywhere from $570,000 to $1.4 million approximately. Potential funding for some of these road improvements are grants if the area qualifies for low to moderate income, some of our local option fuel tax, or straight out of the general fund revenues. We currently have a program annually where we resurface existing paved roads. We dedicate approximately $100,000 per year to that, and that's paid out of local option gas tax funding. But we wanted to bring these segments to the Commission's attention and make sure that the Commission was aware that these roads have merit in funding consideration in the following years. So at the end of this presentation, it'll load. For some reason, it's not listing the streets, but as I stated before, it's approximately 1.8 miles in the core part of downtown Newberry. And I'll go back to your map, and I'll be glad to address any questions that the Commission may have about this.
Commissioner, have any questions for Jamie? Commissioner Coleman?
This isn't really about the paved road, but 46, 27 and 46 heading east. That's county, right?
Yes. No, actually, I'm sorry. That's city.
That's city.
I want to make sure
I get a lot of complaint. Go ahead.
46, are you talking about Southwest 46th, east from 27?
Right in front of Watermelon Pond Road,
No,
that section?
No, it's the section going east towards Davis and Heritage.
That's correct. Is that city?
That's county.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think
I
that's
don't know
county.
about the unpaved section off the top of my head. The paved section going west was transferred as part of one of the interlocals, but it's one of the roads that's being discussed with the county right now as potentially them taking ownership back of the paved section.
Well, I get a lot of calls, 27, get on to 46, all that 46. At nighttime, because of, the way the road is, the people can't see the striping. It hadn't been striped.
There is no striping. Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. And at nighttime, especially the older people living out that way, have been complaining about, well, who is it that's supposed to stripe it? So I don't know, but we need to look into that.
I think we did, and the reason why I'm virtually positive that the section of road Commissioner is asking for is we did look into this question, and that section is county owned, and I believe it's $49,000 was the estimate to do the striping up and down. And so I think we forwarded that information to the county, and we just haven't heard back yet. But I think by the time we got that quote, I want to say that was less than, or about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
That's why it's kind of fresh in my head. Does that sound about right? But it is.
Okay.
I think what staff is wanting us to consider is that for whatever reason, we get an awful lot of communication from people that live on the outskirts of Newberry, that live on a dirt road, that would like a higher level of service. They want the road graded more frequently. They really want the road chip sealed. And the negotiations that we're currently in with the county will address a lot of that. We don't get very many, I don't know that I've ever gotten a communication from anyone living inside of Newberry. And these roads clearly have to be traveled much more frequently than those roads, just by sheer numbers. And so, before which we're getting close to making decisions about where to chip seal, pave next, I think staff just wants us to make sure that we understand that we have, a little under 2 miles of roads in our core, in our urban core, that are currently unpaved, and, by lots of different formulas would have a higher need than some of the roads that are on the outskirts. Commissioner Glanzer?
Is it too late to prioritize some of those before the outskirts roads?
We haven't
Okay.
prioritized anything yet.
Okay, so we could put some of these before those roads on the outskirts?
Well, the deal with the county, those roads are set, but that's a separate, those are really looking at chip seal. I think in your urban core, you probably look at pavement in the urban
So how do
core.
we get these on the?
We did a road inventory of all the roads within the city limits, and we classified them as 1, 2, or 3, with 1 being in poor condition and needing improvement, 2 needing improvement in the next 10 years, 3 no improvements needed in the next 10 years. All of these roads are Class 1 roads that are owned by the city within the core section of the downtown area. As I stated before, we do have a program now where we spend $100,000 a year on resurfacing existing paved roads, and that's an investment that needs to continue if at all possible, because you're protecting your investment. When that asphalt starts to fail, you go ahead and rehabilitate it. These roads here depicted in this have never seen any kind of improvement within the city, just mowing maintenance and grading. And the cost of improvement could be anywhere between $500,000 and $1.4 million, depending on the stormwater facilities you'd have to construct.
Is that for all of them, Jamie? All 1.8 miles?
Yes, sir.
So I think the commissioner's question is, how do we go about addressing this? And I think if this board wants to, we could ask staff to come up with a strategy, a plan for identifying the higher traversed segments and implementing that and bring that back to us for you guys to think about.
And as I stated in the presentation, there may be some of these roads that qualify for grant funding for low to moderate income. And if we could research that, then we could, strategically use our funding, whether it's grant related. If it wasn't grant eligible, then we have to determine if we'll put general fund dollars towards it, or local option fuel tax, or whatever funding source the commission desires.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Will any of these roads be affected by the one-way pairs?
The Southwest First Avenue section just below the city yard, it's a through street now. It may be affected when they configure the twin pairs. I do not think any of the other segments will.
Yeah, I'd hate to, spend money on a road that's going to be torn up in a few years. So.
I believe that's the only one that comes in close proximity, and they're not slating any improvements for that section. They may make it where it's not a through street anymore. It may end up being a cul-de-sac.
Any other questions from the board? So do I have a head nod to put together some sort of strategic plan for addressing, think of, population density, urban development, economic development, come up with some way for us to kind of conceptualize who gets it first and in what order. And I take Commissioner Farnsworth's point, that section there we might want to put towards the end to see what's going to happen with the two-way pairs. Any more questions on the board? Does the public have any questions or comments about the unpaved roads in the urban core of Newberry? Okay, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, as follow-up to your the direction to let's prioritize them, our intent was to put this out there, tell you it's a program that currently isn't in your budget and isn't funded. Our plan is to develop that strategy, but probably this board wouldn't anticipate seeing it again until we get into the budget cycle for next year. This year's budget's set. There's no funding available. If we come up with an opportunity, we would bring it back. But we just wanted to get it in your mind that there's still more to go on roadway infrastructure. We have a good program in place for resurfacing. but we haven't even addressed paving unpaved roads, especially in our urban core. Wanted to get that on the commission's mind now.
We like to do things inside a budget, so everybody comfortable with, we'll spend a year strategizing, and then we'll spend the last part of the year figuring out how to pay for it. Does that sound good? Thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, I'm actually going to go to the podium for... I wanted to step down, Jordan Marlowe, resident of Newberry. I wanted to step down and talk to you guys tonight about an issue that came to my attention in my capacity as mayor, but I'm addressing it as a resident and as a citizen, as a father of children that are in this community. About 6 months ago, 5 or 6 months ago, I sat down with an organization called Health and Wellness Promotions Organizations. I believe I got that right. It's HPW. And this organization only collects data. So they spend 2 years collecting data. They can tell you what our adolescents are using in terms of drugs. They can tell you the frequency. They can tell you at what age they become addicted. They are not necessarily in the business of helping you address it. And at that meeting, they told me that Alachua County is the second highest rated in the state for adolescent drug addiction, opioid drug addiction in particular. The second highest in the state, and we're off by being first by 1/10 of a percentage point. Now, answering questions of why, how did that happen, what do we do about it, that's not necessarily in their wheelhouse, but they want to assist. They're a nonprofit organization. They work directly with different governing bodies. Since that time, I asked Commissioner Glanzer to work with me with that board to help develop a strategy and a plan to bring back to you guys. And I believe we have the beginnings of that. I've met with just about every pastor in the city of Newberry. I look forward to including you in that coalition. And what we would like to do is work with HPW, have every church send us one person that we can train to run focus groups. Those people will then go back to their flocks, their houses of worship, and they will collect their young people, and they'll conduct these focus groups. We'll share that data with HPW, and HPW will help us divest it, help us know what that means. And then we can develop a plan. So that's one branch of this fight against opioids. I'm asking for this body to approve the creation of a task force. That would be, in essence, an advisory committee to you guys that they could pinpoint razor-sharp focus on opioid addiction in the city of Newberry. And they would be the body that would end up working closely with HBW to divest that information. They'll read the research, they'll reach out to the community, they'll be addressed by those leaders of the focus groups, and they'll bring that information back to you and get your blessing on whatever the campaign strategy is. Since I began discussing this on social media and in public, there is no end of ideas about why this is happening and why this is happening in our town. It's shocking to me how many people have been addressed, have been focused, have been touched by this issue. Maybe not directly, but by a relative, a child, a son-in-law, a daughter-in-law. And they all want to help. And that's why I think the task force is a good idea, because we have a lot of people who really want to sink their teeth into this issue, and they want to work with you guys. They want to address the issue. So we have the focus groups that we're working with the churches. I would ask you guys to consider the creation of the task force. HBW has also authorized, they're going to fund a billboard in Newberry to help increase awareness of opioids. One of the concepts that is throughout all these conversations is that we haven't yet moved pills and opioids into the same category of our thinking as marijuana and alcohol. So if you're a parent and you have children in the house, you keep the liquor locked up in a cabinet. You look for the signs of marijuana use and those kinds of things. But the doctor gives you a pill bottle with 30. You take the 5 or 6 that you need, and then you stick the rest in the medicine cabinet, and you never go check it. You have grandma, we have a lot of grandparents taking care of the kids in our community. They're laying out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the pills that they need, and when they get to Thursday, if one's missing, the assumption is they miscounted, and so they never think about where it's going and if they didn't miscount. So one of the planks of this fight is that we have to raise the awareness. We got to get people thinking about this issue and put it right on the same level of everything else. And so HPW is going to do the billboard just to get people to start thinking about it. I have begun to reach out to businesses, the third plank in this fight. I want to recruit the businesses in on this. And I've brokered an agreement with a brand new media company that's going to give me a pretty good deal. For $1,500, they will create, produce, and then manage the social media content so that we can begin pushing advertisements to the mediums and the demographics that are specific to the message. So, I hate to say it, but Facebook is kind of dead for young people. That's my age group now. Young people are on Instagram, they're on Snapchat. So we need to get to Instagram and Snapchat. My age group is on Facebook still. And part of this deal is that we've also reached out to a radio network that will air whatever the commercial is on the radio as well as on social media. And the media company will manage all of that. So we'll get lots of advertisement time on the radio. They'll manage the demographics on the social media. And what I would like to do, and I'll be the first one to donate, I'm here in front of you tonight. I'm going to go in front of the Alachua County Commission tomorrow, and then I'm going to go in front of the school board in December. And I would like the 3 governing bodies that have a say in our community to be a part of the social media and the radio. So I need $500 from each board. My personal philosophy I would rather put the first 100 in and then pass the hat down the bench than to ask to do it on the taxpayers' dime. So I'll put the first 100 in, we'll pass the hat, and whatever we come up with, metaphorically pass that on. I'm not actually wearing a hat today. You might have noticed I'm a little sunburned. I wish I had been wearing a hat today. But we'll pass the hat, and we'll see if we can make this happen. Because I would love to have a commercial that says the City of Newberry Commission, the Alachua County Commission, and the school board are all unanimously united together against this fight against opioids. As a teacher, in 15 years, I've lost 4 students to suicide and accidents. And I know that for each of those 4 students, their path began with some drug use, and it ended tragically for them. So for me, this is personal. I've lost 15 years in this fight, and so I don't want to lose another day. So that's what I'm here to ask for. And I'll pass that metaphorical hat at the end of the night, and we'll see what happens. So can I answer any questions about what we've been working on? I want to thank Commissioner Glanz for everything that she's done. Tim, will you be the mayor for a second and manage, see if there's any questions? I should have worked this out with you ahead of time.
Oh, yeah. No problem. Does anybody on the commission have any questions they'd like to ask citizen George Marlowe? Or comments? Commissioner Glanzer?
Thank you, Mayor, for doing everything you've done, and again, bringing Newberry into a situation where we can be at the forefront of something so important like this in our community, and be an example to the rest of the county. Hopefully all the other municipalities will see what's happening and what can be done, because awareness is where it starts. And this isn't the cure-all, be-all, end-all. This is just the beginning, and it's only a very small beginning, but it's huge for our community. So thank you for what you're doing, and I'll put some money in that hat.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't recall Newberry ever backing down from a fight. So I'm sure that you can get the support of the community or behind something like that, and I'm sure people will step up. I don't have any problem, or I don't have any doubt about that. Does anybody from the audience in the public have any questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much for the presentation. And I will give you back your gavel.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. Okay, at this point tonight, we have time for public announcements. These are 2-minute. We have a garage sale coming up this weekend. I've lost a puppy dog kind of announcements. If you have anything that's more controversial, we have a longer time frame at the end of the night. Come on down, Mr. Marvin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I'm Marlon Day, Library Manager of the Newberry Branch Library, the Alachua County Library District. We have a couple things that I would like to bring to your attention. This Thursday, October the 25th, we have two fabulous programs that are going to be happening. In the afternoon, we have the My City, I Am Part of It, I'm Proud of It program for children. This program starts at 3 o'clock, and we're partnering, of course, with the City of Newberry. The program will include a lift truck, fire truck, and various city officials. We want to thank you all for partnering with us on this program this year. Last year, it was a lot of fun, and we made a few changes this year to help with some of the logistics, and I think it'll be a really nice program on Thursday at 3 p.m. The second program is later that evening. It's going to be at 6 p.m. It's our murder mystery night. Local resident Christine Little has prepared a mystery for us to solve. She does Mysteries by Christine. She's been doing these around town, and I've heard that they're really lots of fun. She's doing it at the library. So Murder Mystery Night is going to be this Thursday, October the 25th at 6 p.m. Finally, next Monday we have a program called #Adulting. At 5 p.m. We'll learn how to create meals on a budget. Newberry resident Emily Harris will be leading this program. She kind of started it on Facebook, knows some interest there, so we're happy to partner with her and host it at the library. So I'd ask that you to share these programs with your constituents and people who are interested. Do you have any questions?
So, Commissioner Glanzer?
Did you say that Mike City was Friday or Thursday?
Thursday at 3 p.m.
Thursday at 3. Okay, good.
Thursday at 3.
Is it anyone, I'll be able to attend. Anybody else planning on to
Okay.
attend? Great, great, okay. It's a lot of fun. We did it last year. I actually wanted to praise all three of those programs. The My City, I'm Proud of It, is great. I have personally been to one of the murder mystery. In fact, my team, I think, came in second, so I might well try to go for the gold. It was a lot of fun. And then the adulting, I want to take a special moment just to recognize what that resident did, because it is true that we have lost a lot of programs out of public education. Home economics, kids are graduating, they don't really know how to adult, how to balance a checkbook, how to make investments, those kinds of things. And the usual method of going on social media and complaining about it, coming out on election day and voting for someone or against somebody, those are all valid ways to participate. But this resident decided to go to the next level and say, I want to do something about it, and I want to offer these kinds of classes in a fun way. So I applaud her for doing it. I thank you for partnering with her, and I hope everybody takes advantage of it, because she sees the need and she feels the need, and that's great.
We're very
We got to get her into the Lions Club.
I'll mention that on Monday for sure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Marlon. Any other public announcements? Any festivals coming up or anything like that?
We do. Lisa Tate with the Main Street, and Peggy and Louise are off to a quarterly meeting, so they're getting some real good ideas for us. But I want to remind everybody the upcoming festival is November 17th, Saturday from 9 to 4. We are going to have something, we're going to have a beer and wine garden this year that's going to extend till 7, so some of the vendors may stay over, especially the food vendors. It's up here on Keene Drive, Seaboard Drive, for those who know both names of that. We have a lot of new stuff this year. We're really excited. It's going to be hopefully our biggest ever. Have stilt walkers, dancers, musicians, having a food court. To date, we're at about 80 plus vendors, which is about double what we've done before.
Good job.
Have book authors that'll be selling their books. We have a camel ride this time with pony rides as well, and lots of free and nominal activities for children. Another thing that we're doing this time is we will have 2 weeks of commercial ads before. That was kind of new for us, so we're excited. We have some sponsors for that as well. So
And I am
hope
working
to
on
see
those
you all
student
there.
volunteers.
Yes, please.
Yes, we will get them there.
All right, any questions?
Lisa? Great.
Any questions about the Fall Festival?
Thanks.
Thank you. Any music?
Yes, we have.
Will you come back up to the mic, Miss Lisa? We got folks at home that desperately want to know the answer to that question, too.
We
Is
have
there any music?
Sarah
was the
Trim
question.
from Bronson will be playing some, and I know we have some others. A fiddler, and I want to say there's a third one, but I can't tell you that right off.
The fiddler was something kind of unique. It was Irish fiddle, or
Well, for
Gaelic
those,
fiddle?
anybody who came to the last open house at the gallery, he played there. Yeah, I think there's another young boy and a gal who will play guitars and do some singing
Okay.
in the courtyards.
All right. Okay, thank you. Any further public announcements? Come on down. Yes, don't be shy.
Not shy. I just wanted We were very happy to hear about this announcement, and we'll be happy to participate on behalf of the Devi Temple. So we'll get together with them to see if we can, bring out our culture and our
Please do.
activities at this event. So, thanks.
Thank you.
How can we get in touch with you? The phone number that you can
Maybe,
talk to you?
Miss Lisa, could I ask you to just go maybe sit next to her and tell her that answer? Okay.
That's how you usually
Any other public announcements?
just give me a contact.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And we have no public hearings and ordinances, so we'll move right to agenda items. Dallas, you're going to lead us through the Newberry Certified Property Tax Value.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As the commission is aware, the property appraiser came back with a final adjustment to our property taxes at close to 2% below what we based our budget on. We talked about it at the last commission meeting, and we've just come back tonight to offer some options. We're not looking for any action tonight, just direction in which way the commission would like us to move forward on this issue. So this was our property tax values over time prior to the reduction, and then this, which doesn't look like a lot on this graph, just a little tiny drop. However, that drop represents almost $50,000 in ad valorem taxes that the city will not collect this year. So that is a fairly healthy chunk of change to our general fund. So the commission has had 4 options. The first was to administratively adjust the millage. Staff has the authority underneath Florida statute to adjust the millage after the budget's been set if there isn't a change greater or less than 1%. Staff did not have the willpower to make that decision, so that is off the table. The remaining 3 options would be for the commission to reduce the budget by the $48,400. Staff would bring forward recommendations on what items could be reduced out of the budget or held off on to reduce those expenses. Option 3 would be you could pull the money out of the reserves. We are estimating at this time that there will be sufficient reserves at the end of the fiscal year 18 to do that. However, until we finish closing the books and we have all the final audit adjustments, we're not really sure where we are. We can take best guesses, but there's still a lot of things that need to happen for us to get those exact numbers. And then option 4, which is staff's recommendation, is to wait and see. As the commission may remember from last year, we did increase our budget a couple of times for unanticipated revenues. We over-collected in a couple of different categories. So as we get through the budget year, we could over-collect in some categories again above the budget and be budget neutral in terms of revenue.
And Dallas, isn't the appraiser's office going back into those numbers to make sure that they're right, or is that not going to have effect on this?
It won't have an effect on this year. The VAB is still meeting, I believe. Yes. The VAB, the Value Adjustment Board, which settles those kinds of disputes, is still meeting. So there's an option. There's a possibility we could get a little bit of it back, or we could lose some more. But the discussion you and I had earlier about the audit will be for future years.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman?
I like option 4. Let's wait and see. I think, I think that we're going to end up being okay instead of, pulling the plug on reducing the budget and all. I think we're going to end up okay. We got time.
Commissioner Glanzer?
If we pick option 4, which is your recommendation, and we don't have enough at the end of the year, can we go to option 3 and pull the funds from the reserves at that time? We have to decide ahead of time.
Mr. Mayor, at the end of every fiscal year, anything you have above or below what you brought in automatically comes out of your reserves. I'll also remind the commission that we do quarterly meet and discuss where we are financially with a budget amendment if needed. So we will see this. I will bring it back at least 3 more times before the end of the year.
So you'll have at those quarterly budgets, you'll have option 2 and 3. You'll say, okay, we're not going to save $48,000 so we can stop some other project, or we can do the reserves.
Just one more question. Is that historically, has that happened a lot, that we end up giving us a higher number than what we're expecting? to get?
It has definitely happened in the past. Most notably, several years ago, I believe Commissioner Farnsworth and the mayor were here. We had a large industrial taxpayer, perhaps on County Road 235, appeal their taxes, and the city had to give back $300,000 and $400,000 respectively several years in a row. So it's definitely happened before.
Those were lean years.
We are required to set our budget based on the numbers that we're given.
Okay, Commissioner Farnsworth?
I'm not sure how this happened because we have an inside operative in the property appraisal and yet
Not doing his job.
not doing his job. Yeah, I'm for the wait and see. I think we were under budget last year, so maybe we'll be under budget this year and everything will work out.
Okay, I have 3 for wait and see.
Wait and see.
Wait and see.
Trade in a car.
We just solved it by $5.
Yeah. I was on wait and see earlier with the caveat of, keeping a little bit of a running list of things that could be on the cut list. As we're going into that, I still kind of maintain that position.
Okay. All right, staff have all the direction we need. Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir, and just so the commission is aware, we will identify $48,000 worth of projects. When we say wait and see, we will not proceed on $48,000 worth of expenses until we see. So it's not, we'll get 3/4 of the way and then say, oops, it never came in. We'll hold back on those expenses.
Additionally, at the very least, the commission does budget a $50,000 contingency. So if everything else kind of fails, there is that contingency built into the budget every year.
Okay, thank you, Dallas.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Manager, you want to lead us through the Alachua County Fairgrounds and the acquisition of Canterbury?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're going to start off with the jingle. No, we're not. I'll get it. I'll just.
That's the case, I think we're done.
And I'll just present from up here so I can run the slide presentation, and I'll run back and forth if I've left anything in my chair. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, as you're aware, we have been working with Alachua County since summertime about the potential possibility of hosting Alachua County Fairgrounds facilities here in Newberry, specifically the agriculture-related facilities and activities. It kind of got started, I guess, in May or so. The county found out that the site that they had been holding for about 15 years was not going to be acceptable to hold the entire campus. And so Newberry was very quick to raise their hands and say, hey, we think that we would be a great community to host the Alachua County Fairgrounds. And we presented to the commission and the county commission in July, and along with a couple of other municipalities that were interested, county commission authorized their staff to work with the city of Newberry to find a location in Newberry that would host those county activities. Specifically, it's the County Youth and Livestock Fair, which is a county-run activity, and the County Extension Agent's Office, which is a county-operated facility in partnership with the University of Florida and IFAS. There was discussion about the Alachua County Fair, which is not a county-operated activity. It just has the same namesake. So the primary sites that we were looking at have been Canterbury, Canterbury being the primary site. It's for sale. It already has equestrian facilities, has a lot of ag activities facilities on site, and we've looked alternatively at the Easton campus and have a quick PowerPoint presentation. The staff report contains a lot of information. I won't go through there sentence by sentence, but just take you through this PowerPoint presentation, then have some discussion. Our recommended action, requested action, is that you authorize the mayor and/or the city manager to issue an offer with conditions to the Alachua County Board of County Commissioners for the acquisition of the Canterbury Equestrian Center for its use as the Alachua County Fairground site. The Alachua County Board of County Commissioners is going to consider this item tomorrow evening, Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. Meeting. 5 p.m. meeting. Sorry about that. God, I'd hate to show up late at their 5 p.m. meeting. It's all over with. So with that, that's our recommended action, our requested action, and I'll take you through the presentation real quick. Some of that background, I've discussed most of that in the opening. Tell you that in looking at Canterbury, the Board of County Commissioners has secured 2 appraisals of the Canterbury site. We've negotiated price for an adjacent 5-acre tract adjacent to the Canterbury site. We've also negotiated a price for 45 acres that would be necessary to host the Alachua County Fairgrounds site at Easton. Canterbury, the features there are just listed, existing versus planned. If the Canterbury site is selected, there'll be two very distinct new features. One will be the addition of essentially a 20,000 square foot pole barn that comes with the youth fair and livestock show. The youth fair folks paid for that type of facility out at the existing fairground site, and they're very interested in making sure that shows up at their new campus, Also, with the county cooperative extension offices, we found that the 38-acre existing site at Canterbury is a little too tight, so we're looking at an adjacent 5 acres in to the east, and the extension offices would be about 10,000 square foot of office plus another 10,000 square foot of conference center, which would be a real boon for Newberry in and of itself. So just to give you some idea of locations, the Canterbury site is on State Road 26 east of town, and it is adjacent and touching the property that we've identified for AgTech Park, where we think AgTech Park was going to be. We see a lot of symbiosis between the sites, the ag-related activities of Canterbury and the IFAS extension agents' offices in concert with our AgTech Park. So this is that area shows generally where we're looking at an additional 5 acres. It's pushed a little north of where most people would prefer it. So we reserve the right to negotiate that moving that to the south all the way to State Road 26 or about halfway to State Road 26. That's an ongoing negotiation with the property owner. Here's a site plan. Part of what the city's efforts have been was we hired a site planning consultant to help us identify would it all fit. And so this is just a kind of a rendering of where the activities would be there in brown, where parking would be in green, how many parking spaces we could fit, and then additional area for both horse paddock, or maybe if we get to the point of hosting the Watermelon Festival, where they may have some outdoor activities or carnival type activities. This site again shows the site plan, some of the conditions that we're talking about. There's the additional 5 acres where we might have a Watermelon Festival area. Just to give you some string-line dimensions of how close those areas are to the adjacent neighbors. To the north there, we're at 827 feet. To the northwest, we're at nearly 1,000 feet. And a proposal to put in a 50-foot vegetative buffer around the site where it borders residential. This is an overview of the eastern site plan. Those areas in gold are not planned for acquisition. They're the light blue and the dark blue. The 45 acres is what, if the eastern site plan is utilized, what that would look like, what we think is the most efficient way. Have parking there on the west side of the road, the Midway Carnival area on the east side of the road, and the stormwater facilities towards the rear of the site, which is the eastern portion of the site adjacent to the 10-acre piece that we recently acquired for stormwater. So moving into an offer and conditions, these I want to just say from the outset, these are strictly concepts for brainstorming. The commission can like these, not like these, can add to them, modify them, but these are conditions, or these are terms of an offer that staff developed. And I would tell you that we've had quite an extensive amount of work with Alachua County staff, so they're aware of these conditions. We've talked through them. It will not surprise them if conditions and terms such as these come forward to them tomorrow evening's meeting. So our first offer is that we would put $1 million towards the acquisition of Canterbury Equestrian Center. However, if we, in addition, develop Easton to host Alachua County Fair, that dollar value may decrease. That's seen as our best offer. We would also offer to provide 5 acres of property adjacent to the Canterbury Equestrian site to be used for the county cooperative extension offices. Our thought is, and recommendation is that we retain ownership of that property and provide a very long-term lease to the county to construct the extension offices on there. The value of that property has been negotiated at $300,000 or $60,000 an acre. We also offer to fund connection of the Canterbury Equestrian Facility, the city of Newberry Central Water and Wastewater System. Currently, the site is on well and septic tank. Even though we have utilities right there, we'd like to get them transitioned over, and I believe it's in the city's best interest to make that part of our offer. That offer exceeds, is estimated to exceed more than 6 figures. It's probably in the $130,000 range for the amount of capacity that site would be using. And to waive building permit fees. This isn't a 6-figure type thing, but typically when government entities work together, cities and counties, usually we allow them to perform their own inspections, so to just go ahead and put that in there, they wouldn't have to pay themselves these fees, and if we agree with them to let them handle all their building permitting and inspection, then we would be in a position to just simply waive those fees. So that's on what the city of Newberry has to offer. Next slide, and this is the first of 3. So we've got a lot of conditions, but I would tell you that many of these conditions are just trying to make sure that there's a lot of clarity. They don't have a lot of meat to them. I'm a little concerned about offering so many conditions, but I'm hoping that the county staff and the county commission will recognize that many of these are somewhat benign, but we just want clarity. And I'd give you the first one being that the city of Newberry recognizes that the county owns and operates the fairgrounds facility, that it's their facility to own and operate it, it's not ours. And just want to make that clear to the county commission. County staff have indicated to us that that is a concern, and that the county commission wants to clearly understand what we're proposing. We think that it's a worthwhile condition to say that the cooperative extension offices have to be included in part of the project, just so that later down the road there's not a shifting of gears, and we don't want to do that any longer. Again, I think that's understood, but I thought it was best to have it expressly written. A third condition that staff recommends is that the county not change the primary use of the site without express approval from the city. So we expect that the site will be agricultural components to Alachua County Fairgrounds, and if they do something different in the future and they want to convert that site into something specifically different, that they'd have to receive approval from us. Absolutely.
Condition 3, I just want to make sure everyone's clear. Condition 3 is because we've had some confusion about, especially the equestrian activities that are going there, and we got involved in this primarily at the beginning because we wanted to save Canterbury as an equestrian showplace entranceway into Newberry. So we feel clause 3 gives us some leverage to say this is the type of activity that has to happen here. That's why we're making this substantial from our budget donation in order to save Canterbury as an equestrian showplace, so that it doesn't become something that's full-on commercial later down the road. I just want to make sure we kind of paused on that one, because that one took a lot of time and community conversation to make sure we got it in there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and also to point out, though, that the county, this facility, the county hopes to rent 365 days a year to generate revenues to cover their operating costs. And so there's an understanding that there may be some activities in there. There may be a dog show, there may be a goat show, there may be a
West Fest.
There may be a concert, a music concert, but the primary function of it is would be a county fairgrounds. It's an equestrian facility with ag-related uses.
Commissioner Hersom, did you have a comment on that point?
I guess the question, is that condition number 3 worded strongly enough that should a future county commission decide they want to change that, we have any standing?
I
mean,
Is that a Scott question?
We'd be happy to amend it in any way. I think it is a city attorney question, but any suggestions that
Sure,
that you or the city attorneys or any member of the public has to amend this language? I think we're being careful not to feel like we're overly constraining the county. And so I think we're trying to strike a balance of, hey, we understand this is agriculture, and there may be a West Fest in there, which is a musical event, which seems in keeping with what agricultural-related facilities or the county fairgrounds would provide. If someone showed up and said, hey, we're going to do an indoor short course motocross event, that might not be in keeping. And so we're that's the happy medium that we're trying to strike with this condition here. But
while Scott's thinking about it, I would simply say, for me, 3 forces us to have a conversation before anything significant changes there. And that's really, in this business, our business, all we can hope for is before you make any big, huge, sweeping shifts in direction, we got to have a conversation, and it gives us some sort of leeway into that. Scott, did that buy you enough time there to formulate your answer?
This is a memorandum of understanding, essentially, and so we would have tighter language if we got to the stage of contract, which would expressly prohibit them from changing the use. But yes, this gets us there as far as the party's intent, at least initially.
Okay. And I guess.
Go ahead.
I guess I would reserve then, other further comments if from a substantially change standpoint is where my concern is, and if they put in a high bank dirt racetrack, that is a substantial change that we would not agree with, but they could, since they own the property, still could go on and do it. Could we get our investment back out?
Mr. Mayor, a couple things. I think it is key to focus in on the primary use of the site, not an individual activity that it would occur at the site.
No, primary use being they knock down the facility and build something else there.
I agree with that, and to Scott's point, that this is a memorandum of understanding type language. The zoning, there are opportunities to catch big changes in use during the zoning. Some of the zoning is approved by right, some of it is approved by special conditions. So if their primary use goes to change to something that is not allowed by the zoning, then this commission would have to approve that without the contract. So, but I think that's a great point, and I think that we'll know that going in and ask the city attorney's office to help us with this. If this board says we like that condition, then we'll try to get it right before tomorrow night, but we'll certainly make sure we get it right before a contract comes back to this board for consideration and approval.
Any further questions about Clause 3? Continue, Mr. Mayor.
So item number 4 comes to the reserved rights or uses for the fairgrounds facility. So what staff has put in as a placeholder, it is after some consideration, was that the city would reserve the facility 4 times annually, totaling not more than 10 days annually. So that'd give us an opportunity for maybe 2 weekends or long weekends, and then one-day events at the fairgrounds. That's at no charge, and that we're in the 3rd position for priority behind the county and UF-IFAS for use of the facility. And then for additional uses, we would be able to reserve the facility at 50% of regular rates But that would just simply be on a first-come, first-served basis. If the weekend or the day that we wanted it was available, we'd get it, and if someone else had already filled the slot, then they would get it. One discussion point for that, or consideration point for that, is this third place behind UF IFAS in Alachua County. They're making the primary investment, and they're the owners, operators of the facility, so it stands to reason that they're going to be in the first seat. We would think to be in the second seat, but there's consideration that if there's an additional investor, and maybe it would be the folks that utilize Canterbury for equestrian activities, that this board may yield that position to them, that they have a concern that they won't get enough uses of the facility, and they're probably not in a position to match funding levels of either Alachua County or the city of Newberry. So I don't need specific feedback on that at this moment, but I'd like for y'all to be thinking about how strongly you feel about where our positioning is in trying to utilize that facility if this moves forward. So condition 5 is similar type of reservation use of the facility, but it relates to the county the conference center portion of the county cooperative extension offices. So they've indicated an interest in having a conference center, and staff, again, thought that maybe 4 times annually, probably won't have those multi-day events, it'll just be 4 days. So we just get use of that at no charge with priority for scheduling 4 days out of the year. And then if we want to get it any other days of the year, it would be at 50% of regular rates on a first-come, first-served basis. The next round of conditions, an opportunity to review and comment on the county's proposed site and improvement plans. Doesn't mean the way that I've written it is that we don't have the authority to direct changes. I think that if the shoe were on the other foot, we would resist that. As staff, we would resist that. Too many cooks in the kitchen. But I think that there's a trust level with the county that if we have preferences, that if we articulate those preferences in writing, that they would consider them in their decision-making processes. We've recommended as a condition that the cooperative extension offices utilize an architectural style that uses agricultural themes, consistent with what we think we're going to see in the Newberry Agritech Innovation Park. We've got some renderings, we got some concepts, and frankly, I would tell you that the County Cooperative Extension Office has already transmitted some facade looks to us that have that agricultural thing. So I think they're thinking along those lines, but again, this just puts it in writing.
I just want to highlight that because I think condition 7 may sound like a little bit of an overstep, like we're saying how we want it to look, but really and truly, I think all 3 parties are on the same page here. That we all, UF and IFAS, this is their premier facility. They really want it to look nice, and so I think we're all seeing kind of the same vision.
Condition 8 is that the facilities must connect to the city's central water and wastewater system. Condition 9 would be that they transfer their existing well to the city of Newberry. And I will tell you that we've been working on that for a better part of a week, and it occurred to me today that that might not be in the county's best position. I know that the county doesn't irrigate at their facility, so I thought, well, they have no need for the well. But when you think about an equestrian facility and a fairgrounds facility, they probably have tons of need for non-potable, washed-down water, things that aren't going to come back to the wastewater system. So I've already anticipated that that condition may not be acceptable to them. I'll just go ahead and give you that feedback, and I would understand why. Condition 10 becomes very specific, but it's just that if you use chain link fencing on the perimeter, that it be black vinyl coated. If you don't use chain link fencing, this is not a condition. I mean, and again, this is simply a staff, what we see in the community, what seems to be working well. We want this to be a premier event, and we want it to fit lockstep with the Ag Tech Center, so we're just trying to look for a certain amount of curb appeal. Condition 11, limit the area where carnival or midway activities are conducted to the 10-acre area south of the main arena and adjacent to State Road 26. This was mainly in consideration that the Newberry Watermelon Festival has identified since discussion about Canterbury began acquiring it as we'd like to be back there. I understand at some point in history they were there, they loved the site, and so thinking of how best to, if they were to bring a carnival or midway, how best to locate that where it was minimal impact to anybody and we're as remote as we could be.
Mike, I want to pause on that one because I know a lot of folks are interested in that condition as well. And the crux of the issue really is allowing the Newberry Watermelon Festival to be back on site. And it's impossible to write a contract where you say one carnival can happen and one carnival can't happen. So the compromise that we've done is we've said that if the carnival can fit in this box, in this little box here, then it can have a Newberry Watermelon Festival size box, then it can happen here. If it can't fit inside that box, then it's not appropriate, it can't happen here. So that's been the compromise position. So we don't want to exclude the Newberry Watermelon Festival. We never had any complaints about it. People like that. So we're saying if you can throw a festival that's that size, then that's appropriate. If it's bigger than that, then we'll have to move to Easton as a consideration or to a Gainesville location as a consideration. Okay. Is the board clear on that? Okay. I know we'll have audience comments on that as well, but get through the presentation first.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Mayor, we've provided for in item 12, condition 12, the installation of a 50-foot wide high-density vegetation buffer that will provide both visual and sound buffer for, and that's adjacent to residential neighborhoods. That buffer would consist of canopy trees and understory to be consistent with county land development regulations. So every one of the county planners and frankly their administrative staff and probably their elected officials, when they read that, they know exactly what we're referring to. And so I think that would do wonders to help separate a primarily residential neighborhood from this agricultural-based facility that has different land uses. And that's 50 foot is kind of the maximum that you see anywhere in our land development regulations when we go from one zoning category to another. That's the max. We have much less in many of our zoning classifications. This is a pretty solid buffer, and county staff at least are aware of this and have not objected to us. For item 13, we've suggested to eliminate the evening operating hours to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and to either 11 or 12 on Fridays and Saturdays. We've, item 14, similar, most of these on this page are related to compatibility with an adjacent residential area. Limit area lighting so that lighting doesn't negatively or adversely impact residential areas on the north and west side of the site, again, the residential areas. Normally that involves, and we do that, that's kind of standard in land development regulations where you have zoning categories that are inconsistent. When you transition from one to the other, usually you don't want to have light spilling off, and so they use all kind of light shields, or they adjust their lighting so that you don't have those problems. And then finally, to limit noise generated by activities on the site such they comply with our ordinances. And that's one of those no-brainers, but I mean, everything at the site would have to comply with our ordinances. But however, it is nice to just articulate it and make sure that everybody's aware that we understand that there could be concern about noise and that we'd like to address it on the outset. So that completes staff's list of conditions. We can always back up to there. To them again. I'll be ready for questions, but just to go back to our recommendation to authorize the mayor and or the city manager to issue an offer with conditions to the Alachua County Board of County Commissioners for acquisition of Canterbury Equestrian Center for use as the Alachua County Fairground site.
Okay, questions from the board. Commissioner Martin.
I want to apologize for people in the audience who are kind of just catching up with us on this, we have had back and forth conversations with staff for months about this, and we have gotten down to the 10,000 foot level of this. So tonight is really kind of bringing the plane back up and kind of getting some broad strokes discussed. I like the direction. I feel that the feedback that's been given by the commission to the staff from the public and from our own position, that this really takes on the air of what we were going for originally. The main reason I even ran for office originally was when the county originally wanted to site the fair at Canterbury. At that time, the fair was a lot bigger production than it is now. It's my understanding now that that fair is almost on par with the Watermelon Festival. Granted, the large production wouldn't fit in this area anyway, so for the most part, it's a moot point. And even if it was as big as the Watermelon Festival, we went there plenty of times when there were rides there, and it was not an issue, especially being in this area that's already kind of pre-designated for those activities. So when we first started this conversation, there was a little bit different picture seen and shown. So I'm happy to see the changes there on that. Mike, I did have one question about the roadway. How has it been discussed? Because I haven't heard from either of you about access to the extension office. I know there's a driveway through there, but what's been the discussion on that?
Some of that is to be determined. The thought with the extension offices is when the roadway infrastructure with the AgTech Park is completed, it would connect to the to the cooperative extension offices as the primary means of ingress and egress. Looked like it was meant to be that way. Looked like the infrastructure went in first. In the meantime,
yeah.
That 5-acre site. Let me see. I think this image here maybe shows a roadway connecting the cooperative extension offices to the drive aisle going around the Canterbury site as one alternative. And I would tell you as a final thought, if that 5-acre piece that is now shifted north where the cooperative extension offices, if it slides all the way to State Road 26, then it may have a direct connection to State Road 26.
And Commissioner Martin, that's the will of the majority of the county commission. Actually, is that while they are symbiotic, there's a feel there needs to be their own separate entrance and exit.
Sure,
so
sure. But I guess I bring that point up just to make them aware. We're obviously a little more familiar with the area than they are at this point. So I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that they're aware that there's a driveway and an easement through there.
Yes.
It splits those two properties. And I don't know, do we have a back entrance to that section of Newberry Oaks that could spill out on there? I know there was one on the northern older section, but the newest section?
Yes,
do you know?
Mr. Mayor.
Do you know?
No,
I do.
Okay.
I do. I'm sorry to cut off that question there. The 30-acre piece that is on the north end of this driveway that goes between Canterbury and the proposed 5-acre site has direct access to Newberry Oaks. There's a road that spills right into it. There's a second access point on the very northern portion of Newberry Oaks that spills into a 7-acre parcel that Mr. Weisman still owns. Those are all kind of tied together, but the parcel that is owned by Mr. McCauley and the Evans live back there as well. Mr. McCauley's property directly accesses Newberry Oaks if he elects to do so.
Okay. So just make sure the county is aware that the Evans live back there.
We've been working very diligently with both the Evanses and the McCaulays trying to address that situation.
Any further questions, Commissioner Martin?
No, not at the moment.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
With this putting in $1 million towards the thing, we only get 10 days of use.
Mr. Mayor, that's staff's recommendation. But again, that's a placeholder. If the commission wants more, I think that, the county's investment just to acquire the property is about $3.8 million. And it looks like Newberry's stake, as proposed, would be 1.3. Now, the county then has to rehabilitate the existing campus and build the county extension offices and all the infrastructure. At best I can tell, that's looking to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million total project. So it looks like that our investment is somewhere in the 12% range, 12 to 15% range. The county hasn't suggested, county staff hasn't suggested to me that we limit our days at what they did. We just tried to think of the type of activities that the city of Newberry operates and reserve those dates. I would mention that we almost felt like better to zero in on conditions so that it is a campus that fits well in our community than necessarily reserve dates that we likely wouldn't use. But, we're, again, staff's open-minded to feedback on that. If the commission feels like that we should amend our ask for more or less days, we're happy to take those notes and carry that to the county commission.
Well, Mr. Manager, before we go further down that line of thought, I just want to remind the commission that our intent in getting involved in this was sort of threefold. We wanted to save Canterbury as an equestrian showplace for the entranceway, and we wanted to do something for the ag and the FFA kids. One of the concerns that we have heard many times from the equestrian folks is, are we still going to be able to do our business? Are we still going to be operate? Is the facility still going to be available? So I think our ask in terms of the days is a compromise for what do we need out of it? What makes this in perpetuity? We get this much while still leaving the bulk of the calendar available for equestrian uses. One of the things that is attractive to the county about Canterbury over the Copper site is that there is an active potential business to be run there that they can utilize to help fund the maintenance and the operations. But if the governing parties clog up the calendar, then that gets difficult. So that's sort of how we came up with the days. Not to say that this body couldn't, ask for 12 or something like that. But those were the considerations that went into trying to be reasonable with our ask. Commissioner Farns, I didn't want to cut you. I just wanted to make you aware.
How are you going to decide who gets priority over those 10 days?
It's us. We only get the 10 days if it's City of Newberry. So we would either like Westfest is absolutely a City of Newberry run event. We would have to partner with the Watermelon Festival. We could partner with the Newberry Lions Club if they wanted to move their charity rodeo there, but it would be the City of Newberry, so there's no priority. The priority would be county, IFAS, City of Newberry, but City of Newberry, once we project out a year down the road, we would say these are the things that we want to do.
Yeah, the only thing is, once you get Westfest and Watermelon Festival and Lions Club and maybe the Main Street, those 10 days are going to be gone very quickly. So, and you might have some other group coming in and want to put something else out there, and you got to decide who has priority. So, I think that could be a potential problem. And the extension office, how much are we going to be renting that property for?
Renting?
Or is that what you said, that we'd be renting to the county?
No, well, the proposal is that we would lease the land back to the county for $1 a year. So we would own the land, If the county ever decides to vacate, move somewhere else, the building would come back to us. Commissioner Martin, you had a follow-up, or you want to let?
That's actually one of the points I was going to bring up, but I didn't want Commissioner Farnsworth to think that we're just getting 10 days in exchange for $10 million. I think there's a lot of intangible benefits that we have to invest in, which is securing the site for what we really actually want it for. I think we're investing in the potential of getting the extension office turned back over to us in the event that they actually vacate it, which realistically they're probably not going to do. But I kind of think of it as an investment into getting some of the other stuff that we are hoping will actually happen out there. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, Commissioner Hersom.
Yeah, just to clarify, I guess when we talk about the city's use of those 10 days, and as you brought up, some of those other entities would actually have to partner with the city. They could schedule on their own, independent of the city, correct?
Correct.
So, thus not using any of the city's days if they were so inclined. So that they would have to be willing to partner with the city in whatever criteria, conditions we would have with them. And again, I think, just to echo Commissioner Martin's comments, that it's the opportunity to preserve the entryway of Newberry and to set the stage for everything else that we're trying to do regarding the Ag Tech Park, and those two things go hand in hand. And so that entryway to Newberry and maintenance of our agricultural heritage is key, and I see this as the linchpin to doing that.
Commissioner Coleman?
I agree with Commissioner Martin too, and the 10 days, I don't think we can even, everything we're naming here, I don't think we're going to use up 10 days, to be honest with you. Because you also you got the North Fleets over here to have their events and stuff that's going on. And that's our gateway. And with this Ag Tech Park that we're really, really wanting, I think that we got to look at it, who's the paying customers, who's putting money into this after this is purchased. And Canterbury and the horse equestrian stuff has really been good to Newberry. So not saying that we need to cater to them, but we really need to. I don't know how many events they have a year or whatever, but that needs to be high priority for us on that.
Commissioner Glanzer?
I wholeheartedly and with great enthusiasm endorse this project. For the last 40 years or so, I've heard about 4 themes from our citizens about Newberry and its future. One of the main themes is to keep the agriculture heritage alive and well. This community's roots run deep in agriculture, and in no way should we ever diminish that or cause it to be threatened by decisions we make for growth and development. The second theme I've heard over all these years is that Newberry needs an industry that'll provide jobs for our young people, that they can stay in Newberry after they graduate from high school and college if they choose to do so. Third thing is that we want an economic development engine that is clean and sustainable. If y'all were here a couple decades ago, we went through a very excruciating time trying to approve a cement plant, which has turned out to be a great solid member of our community, but it was difficult. But the most recent and final theme I've heard is that we want the Canterbury facility to remain intact. It's become part of our identity, and it offers area horse enthusiasts a venue for their sport. So fast forward to tonight, October 22nd, 2018. All the stars lined up, and our collective prayers and voices, I believe, have been heard. I mean, tonight we're in this unbelievable position to have a hand in the future of Newberry for generations to come. This is a chance to deliver to Newberry the opportunity of a magnitude I can't really even measure. The opportunities are endless for which we will be afforded by virtue of having an IFAS campus, the Alachua County Fairgrounds, and the foundation for the Agricultural Technology Park. That will attract high-tech businesses who will pay those wages we want for our residents. So what we're voting on tonight is a catalyst for all these great opportunities to happen. The fairgrounds is that key which opens the door to the future with respect to what Newberry looks like for years to come. The last thing I wanted to point out was that Newberry Oaks is on its last phase of development in housing build-outs. So in the near future, the developer of Newberry Oaks will have to make a decision on what's his highest and best use for that Canterbury property. It's not anything sinister to want to use your property for the highest and best use. That's the nature of a developer, and it's his lifeblood for his business. So what types of projects he could look at in the near future for the gateway to our community would be similar to many communities. It'd be shopping centers, discount stores, and super centers, all of which I believe would create a bigger impact regarding light and traffic than what would this fairgrounds. So we have a chance to vote tonight on it remaining a property of agricultural nature, and I strongly support and give my vote to approve this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Glennis. Commissioner Martin?
One other thing. I kind of feel like the energy level is a little low, and I'm kind of sometimes a low energy guy, but this is probably one of the most exciting things that has probably happened since I've been up here. And I think it feels like 7 years worth of work coming off of my shoulders right now. I kind of feel like running out in the street and singing and dancing and being happy that this is within reach and within sight. I feel like we're coming around the fourth turn, and the finish line could potentially be right there when we can start possibly putting the final pieces into this puzzle. And I think it's fantastic, and I really, really, really am excited about the opportunity to hopefully pull this off.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Just to clarify, I'm also in favor of it. I just want to make sure that Newberry gets the best deal they can out of it. And
He's clearly read the art of the deal. He's
Well done.
Also, we got to, we're going to be losing the whatever property tax we get off that property now too. So that's also a factor. So, but I still believe that the benefits will far outweigh the cost.
Are you going to sing and dance too?
Not yet.
Any other questions from the board for staff? I mean, I agree, and I think the energy that Commissioner Martin is in the 15 different conditions that we go through, and so we got I don't know, except for the one about the well. I think they're all worth talking about. I think they all give us something to talk about. So I'm not prepared to nix any of them. I think we take them all to the county tomorrow, and we continue the conversation there. So if there aren't any more questions from the board for staff, we'll open up to the public for questions and comments. For questions and comments, we have. I'm all confused. How many minutes do we get for questions? 3 minutes for questions and comments on an agenda item. So please state your name and tell us what you're thinking about this exciting possibility for Newberry. And just don't be shy, just queue up behind.
Christina Stainfield, citizen. I live in Newberry Oaks, and there's a lot of chatter going on our Facebook page, Newberry Oaks residents.
It's a really good Facebook page, by the way.
Sometimes.
Very informative.
Yeah. That the striping in the parking spots on 232nd Terrace were specifically put in with this in mind, for parking for the fairgrounds. And I would like to dispel that, if I may, or if you may, please.
Would you like me to do it now, or do you
I
want
would like for you to do it.
I would absolutely dispel that. The parking is, I'm not sure if this slide has it, but the parking will be on site. There's absolutely no way that parking would be put in to park for the youth of the ag shows or the Watermelon Festival or any of those kinds of things. The on-street parking is part of a greater citywide plan, because if you go 1 block to the west, you might know what street that is, you'll see that people park on both sides of the street, and then it becomes very difficult to navigate. So
intimately aware with that. Yes.
Yes. So the striping and the parking were an opportunity that came about because a resident on the neighborhood believed that there was a speeding problem. none of the data actually showed that that speeding problem existed, but it gave us the opportunity to implement that greater citywide policy. But I think, how many parking spots do we have on that road? It's under 20.
We don't have an exact count right now.
Under
Mr. Mayor, I'm
25, which would be negligible for the Watermelon Festival. We can certainly discuss about when we have the Watermelon Festival or when we have an event, shutting that road down so that you can't even get through there. I mean, there's lots of ways we can
That was
proceed
gonna be
if
my
that's a
next
real
comment
concern.
is, fast forward a year or two, how are you
Sure.
going to keep people from parking in those parking spots? and
I think
walking over?
the straightforward answer to that is by offering plentiful parking right next to the event. That would be, I think, the logical common sense answer to that. And that's what we would endeavor to make sure happens.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to dispel anything on social media, but that might take the rest of the night.
My comments are going to be very quick. My name is Alan Evans, and Carly and I, we basically were the builders of Canterbury, and we're their biggest customers, really, with our business Southeast Tour shows. And of course, we're behind this, and some of the minor issues that have to be worked out, we're here to help get this thing going. If you read between the lines of what you guys are saying, Commissioner Farnsworth, there are going to be some costs involved, but I just want to state that, to me, it could be mind-blowing the revenue that can come into this community is going to far outweigh the costs that are involved, or the compromises that we may have to make it work. It already has brought in over the year millions of dollars for this community, and it's going to explode beyond that, I think, with the plans you guys are making. I just wanted to make that quick comment.
We appreciate you making that comment.
Yeah, I mean,
don't run away. We want to take a moment to thank you for what
Okay.
you've done. Before this commission was on the dais, a previous commission set a goal of becoming the sports tourist mecca of North Central Florida, and Canterbury and Gatorback were the catalyst for that. And sometime in that process, we kind of lost sight of Canterbury. But Canterbury was one of the anchors that has always been bringing in folks. So you guys, and the work that y'all have done, we need to say thank you for that, because it is a beautiful entranceway to Newberry, and we need to get some money in there and make it look a little bit better and spruce it up. So
We appreciate you. I appreciate your remarks, and I just felt like it. You guys were saying it, but it was a little bit in between the lines. But the revenue that's going to come out of this for the community, and the possibilities for everything from restaurants to hotels and everything that are wrapped around the whole sports complex and everything, it can all work together. And it's like you say, it is the gateway to our community too. And I know that there's going to be some improvement money put into it, which it's needed. And Carly and I are here for sure, and anybody involved to just help out. And it's just, we can't see anything negative about it. And in dealing with WEC or whatever we need to do, we're here, okay? And I just I appreciate the community and being able to live in a place that can look at the future in the way you guys are, without turning it into an industrial situation. It's a nice place to live, and it's going to get nicer, I think, with the right people involved. So
thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody on the dais have any questions, since we have someone so intimately wound up with Canterbury here? Thank you, sir.
Jim Stainfield, citizen. I know you all are excited, and I'm thrilled for you. I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm not. The gentleman just talked about growth and everything else that could happen around Canterbury. If that growth were going to happen, we would have seen that around Easton. We didn't see any kind of growth. We didn't see any kind of hotels or restaurants or anything come in the area. So I don't know about this, whether this is going to work that way. What I would like to see is right here. It shows the Agritech Park and Canterbury side by side. That's a whole lot of property we're taking off the tax rolls.
No, let me correct you there. The Ag Tech Park would not be taken off the tax rolls. Yeah, the Ag Tech Park is going to be, there may be pieces, like the IFAS building would be on there, that would be off, but the rest of the Ag Tech Park is going to be private ownership, private partners.
So that's all private industry.
Well, I don't hold me to the all part, but the bulk of that is going to be, we never know what's going to come into the future, but the bulk of that's going to be private property, private commerce. So just want to make sure, because that's another one of those things to dispel. The Ag Tech Park is going to be high-end agricultural jobs, technology jobs. As I tell my AP students all the time, you know, the cutting edge of science these days is in agriculture. Mm-hmm. And this Ag Tech Park is going to hopefully show them that and keep them right here. So
I was okay with that. The problem I had was maybe they were both going to be off tax rolls. And I'm going, that's a big chunk of property to be taken off our tax
I like
rolls.
to solve that problem before it even made it to social media.
Well,
go ahead. We won't take this time from.
Well, and another thing is the not the buildings, because that's considered curtilage, but right now the land is considered horse under an ag classification. So the land itself, we were not really getting much money off of it in the first place. So we're not going to see. And how long has Canterbury been there? 20 years?
that's true. But as Commissioner Glanzer had said, if it didn't turn into that, it'd probably be a big box store. And if that were the case, that would be bringing big dollars to our area. There's a lot of money to be had in big box stores or even businesses. So I was seeing as cutting businesses. One of the other points I wanted to make is we got Canterbury there, and if the county's going to own it, that's in the middle of Newberry. Our Newberry city limits are way off to the side. So we have a county entity in the middle of our city. And we have not been on the best of terms with our county. I mean, recently we've been on pretty good terms. But
thank you for saying that. We worked real hard, and recently we've been on very good terms.
Recently we have been, but in the past we have not been on good terms with our county, and no telling what they're going to do. And if it's in the center of our city, that could be potentially bad news. So that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. And I think that's why we have 15 clauses in there. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I would just point out that one of our conditions is they would have to use it primarily as an ag facility, and they'd have to get approval from us. But our zoning regulations will still apply. So if the county wants to do something that doesn't comport with our zoning regulations, then they would have to seek approval by special exception or something along those lines, and this board would have an opportunity to deny that request.
Okay. Any other citizen comments about potentially one of the biggest things to happen in the city of Newberry in a long, long time? I take silence as a rousing of everybody's ready to go sing and dance with Commissioner Martin in the street. Monty's going to lead the way. So can we put the motion back on the screen, Miss Amy, so we make sure we get it correct? Okay, would someone like to offer the motion on the screen?
To approve this recommendation.
Commissioner Glanzer.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll second it.
I have a first from Commissioner Glanzer, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any further questions or comments on the motion on the floor? Any further questions or comments from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Well done, everyone. I want to thank staff for not only recognizing the potential of this, but working so hard over the last 5 months to make this possibility on the verge of becoming a reality. So we'll see how it goes, but we've all got our fingers crossed.
Mr. Mayor, can I just offer one quick
Please.
shout out?
Please.
For me, this started with, I sat down at my desk one morning and I got an email from a staff person that was simply the headlines that said that the county was looking for a new, or was not going to go to their existing fairgrounds. There was no statement about it. He knew that the gravity of that would not be missed by anybody, and so we at that moment began pursuing that. And I don't want to take any credit for that. Dallas read that in a headline of the Gainesville Sun. He probably saw it on the county commission meeting because he watches all that. And that I'd love to give kudos to staff. Our staff is always looking for ways to put Newberry in a better position, and this is a clear-cut example of that.
And for those of you who are keeping count, that's 2 for 2. It was Dallas, if my recollection recalls, that pointed out the inequity in our local option fuel tax.
That is correct.
And it was Dallas that also put this on the table for us. So Dallas, you're on a roll. You know what that means. The expectations just get higher. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to executive officer evaluations.
Nope.
No, did I miss one? I'm sorry. Item C, legislative day agenda items. Mr. Manager, you take that one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Every year, we put together a legislative agenda. These are the priorities that we take to our state representatives, both on the House of Representatives side and the Senate side. We'll take this to the local delegation meeting, which has not been scheduled yet. I think the 2019 legislative session is going to occur a little bit later in the year. It'll be later in the spring, March, April, May timeframe, as opposed to January, March timeframe. So as we do every year, we like to focus on the projects that are most important in Newberry. As your manager, I'm learning to be more specific and not take 20 very vague and nebulous items, but to really drill it down. So we have proposed, and I guess as a recommended action, this is today's meeting is to review the list, and I won't read through every one, and begin to consider as elected officials, have discussion, ask questions if you have any, and then at our next meeting, we will ask for the commission to provide direction on specifically which items they'd like to put into our 2019 legislative agenda. The list doesn't change dramatically from year to year. We amend it as we make progress or we make new asks, but we've compiled a list of 18 items. Again, this is staff's suggestions based on the crystal ball that we're looking at. We certainly welcome ideas from the community or from the city commission. I would tell you that our top 5 projects are within that top 5 or 6, what staff believes are the most significant impacts for the city of Newberry. But, just I'll briefly mention that, support our request for the Florida Jobs Growth Grant Fund. As you know, I've been keeping you aware. This is a $8.9 million grant request we've asked for public infrastructure. I am hoping that we're going to hear something well before the legislative session comes to pass. So item 1 hopefully will not be on our 2019 legislative agenda, because we'll simply be in the design mode or in the pre-design mode, worrying about how to get that project moving. But beyond that, we have funding for our wastewater utility extension that would serve Ag Tech Park. We have a grant request into the state for historic preservation at Little Red Schoolhouse. We've proposed in this year's budget $115,000 in funding, but it's a $230,000 project. So we're looking at a 50-50 list, and the state has recommended us for funding, but in order for us to receive that funding, the legislature has to appropriate $10 million. We're right in the $9.8 million range. If they appropriate $9 million, we're out, we missed the cut. If they appropriate $10 million, we made it and we got the cut. So that's an important project to us. I would say that we're moving forward without it. This project's important. It's the Little Red Schoolhouse structural repairs. We're going to spend 50%. We're going to spend our funding this year. If we get appropriation from the state, great. If we don't, we'll worry about the shortfall next year. But the project is such as that. And then I won't go through every project on the list. There's the regional wastewater treatment concept that we explored some last year. We still think that's a very important project and would be very beneficial to not only our community of Newberry, but all of western Alachua County and eastern Gilchrist County. Commissioner Glanzer mentioned this community's appreciation for agriculture, and I would say that I agree with that statement wholly. I would also say that contrary to the thoughts of many, the Newberry community also understands the importance of our environment and is committed to projects that will protect the environment, and the regional wastewater plant initiative is something that would work to save the rivers and the springs in all of western Alachua County and eastern Gilchrist County. So there's a list of 18 I encourage you to review that list. If you have ideas, get them to us. We'll add them to the list, and I will get the final list to the commission before the next city commission meeting, probably the week before, and say, all right, this is what we think is the total of all the projects, and please come prepared to say, Mike, it's this 4 or 5 items that we'll include in our legislative action list. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Martin?
Maybe like the Constitutional Review Committee, we could just bundle 4 or 5 things together. Too soon?
Any other questions for everybody? Understands timeline, review, come back. Okay. I'm sorry, does the public have any comment on those legislative items? Hearing none, we'll move on to executive officer evaluations. We got everybody's evaluations to HR, and I'm not sure if HR or the clerk, maybe it was Amy, somebody compiled it all and put it together for us. What I'm passing down to you is everyone's composite score. I've got all of the evaluations. The city clerk will have those, I guess, or Miss Amy will have those, if anyone wants to go through and review them. The pertinent information is the score at the excuse me, far right-hand side. The average score for the city attorney came in at 4.95, for the clerk 4.94, and for the manager 4.93. Those scores, if we treat our charter officers the way that we treat all of the rest of the employees, would warrant each of the charter officers a pay raise of 4%. So we have resolution number 2018-46 that we would need to pass if that is the board's wish. Does the board have any questions for any of the charter officers in this evaluation process? Okay, while you're thinking about it, I'll ask the attorney to go ahead and read the resolution.
Mr. Mayor, this is resolution number 2018-46. The City of Newberry, Florida, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, providing for the merit pay increase for the city clerk, commensurate with an evaluation by the City Commission, providing for a merit pay increase for the city manager, commensurate with the evaluation by the City Commission, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2018-46 upon its reading by title only.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Martin.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Hersom. I think it was. They said it almost identically. Any questions on the motion on the floor?
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Martin.
I was going through the evaluation, and I've come to a point where my expectation is excellence from the staff, which theoretically is a 3.0 on the score. That doesn't always translate in this. I didn't want to just score everybody that does an excellent job as what probably would have been interpreted as average. I appreciate everything that the charter officers do for this city. Judy, for one, particularly this year, has been kind of a little bit of an unsung hero as far as I'm concerned, dealing with some educational things on her part and furthering that. Some of the other legal things that we've been fielding as well, so kudos to her for that. Mike, my hat's off to you and what you do with your staff on a regular daily basis. Because we ask excellence of you, I think that translates into how you provide leadership to the city, and I see a difference continually, and I know that's a big strong point for you to always try to get better, and I do see that. And as far as the attorney's office goes, kind of the same thing as the city manager. I know that you all are going through some changes and trying to get better and bring your business up to the next level. We appreciate what you do for the city of Newberry. I don't suspect that we are your biggest client. I don't expect that we are your greatest client, but I guarantee you we are a great client. And we appreciate the reciprocal nature that you try to get your staff better to serve us better as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Coleman.
I'll follow up, pretty much ditto everything that Commissioner Martin said. Especially Judy Rice, with the election and all the legal stuff and all the requests for, stuff constantly every day by some of the city people that live here. And Mike, you've done an excellent job. I look back, 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, oh, golly, he's not one of us, blah, blah, blah. You know how it went. But, man, you went way past what I thought, and I really appreciate everything you do for Newberry. I really do. And, Mr. Attorney, you haven't changed. Everything's great, man. And looking out after the city of Newberry, you've done a great job, and thanks a lot.
Any further comments? Commissioner Farnsworth.
Yeah, I also, I do appreciate Judy and all she's done for the city. She's been with us for quite a while, and her knowledge and expertise has really helped us out a lot. And Mike, I think, was the best hire we ever made for the city of Newberry, and I really appreciate all you've done. As far as the city attorney is concerned, there was a massive improvement when Allison Foles showed up that meeting, but so I had to give him a 5 on that one too. So
You must have gotten one of those knives.
Yeah.
Commissioner Glazer.
I don't want to take a lot of time, but all of you, I just appreciate you so much, and straight 5s, hundreds, whatever we can give you, you would have gotten the best score, and I'm just so appreciative and happy and proud to work with you all. Thank you.
Commissioner Hersom.
As the consistently low scorer on the commission, I'm the new guy. I absolutely, the 6 months I have served on the commission, have enjoyed working with all 3 charter officers, and it is the effective university training that has affected my scores. But I have enjoyed working with and the opportunity to serve with you all. I've appreciated your efforts greatly. Thank you.
Well, they've said so much, they've hardly left me anything to say. So while I try to come up with something new, I want to clarify, obviously the city attorney works under contract, so we're in the middle of renegotiating that. We'll bring that back to you as a separate agenda item. And just so folks know, I'm a non-voting mayor, so I did not do the evaluations just for clarity's sake. So the scores are the commission scores. They're the ones who will vote on all the issues. But I do want to add my thanks to the 3 of you. The commission has already said it all, but I don't know that I've ever had a conversation with you, Scott, before 10 o'clock at night. That's when it always happens. And if 911, somebody calls me back. Bringing Rich in has been a wonderful transition. We appreciate that. There's always a little bit of uncertainty when that transition happens, and you heard those concerns, and you went the extra mile for us. Mike, I don't know how your wife puts up with me. At every commission meeting, I generally end up saying the same thing: go home and apologize to your wife for me that I kept you here. But it's never ending, and I think that's because, as some of you have said, Mike has come in and it's been gangbusters. Tonight is a great night for you guys to be here. This is what we have come to expect from staff, we say we want to save Canterbury. It's a key stone of multiple of our policies, and a few months later, here we are with that actual as a possibility. Ms. Judy, I think unsung hero is exactly right on. You've kept us straight and narrow in ways that most folks will never even know. And so we do appreciate all 3 of you guys, the work that you do, and you make all of these guys and myself look really, really good. And we appreciate you for giving us. The previous mayor had a saying. He said, if staff brings the commission good information, we make good decisions. And that's absolutely 100% true. You guys bring us good information. Legal information, economic development information, again, legal information, and you guys keep us straight. And so we do appreciate everything that you do. and tell your families how much we appreciate them sharing you with us. So with that, we have the resolution properly motioned and seconds. Any comment from the public on the resolution on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Even the biker agrees with us. We got a little vroom out of him. Okay. That was 2018-46. Okay. So we are to comment. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd just like to thank you and the other elected officials for taking time to provide feedback on my performance. I genuinely do appreciate it, and I take it very seriously. I will strive to address every comment, including clean your office, in the upcoming year. And I want you all to know, because we won't do this every meeting, but this job is my dream job. I love coming to work every day. I'm very proud of the accomplishments of this team. We have a great staff that works with us, and I couldn't be prouder of those. And I'm more excited about the projects that we're working on and the what's bright for Newberry. So just a huge thank you and appreciation from me to you. Just an update on our hurricane relief efforts. Newberry community, man, they just give and give and give. So we partnered, and I'm going to take time to read every one of these. We partnered with Newberry 4-H, who I think they kind of took the lead. I mean, they just blew everybody's doors off with the amount of effort, and what great leadership they have over there. And the youth that are involved in Newberry 4-H, they are learning some of the greatest lessons on how to serve and how to give that any youth could. And I just am proud to be associated with Newberry 4-H. Tin Can. Now, you can't speak to Matt because he's in the Panhandle working and has been for 2.5 weeks. But they give. Christian Life Fellowship, the Concerned Citizens of Newberry made one call to Judy Lewis, and before anybody else, Concerned Citizens of Newberry were delivering stuff to the fire department. A lot of support there. Destiny Community Church, Newberry First Baptist Church, Newberry First United Methodist Church, Newberry Jonesville Chamber of Commerce, which helped us brainstorm to even pull this together to begin with. Main Street Organization, all three of our schools, Newberry Elementary, Oakview Middle School, Newberry High School, Norfleet Homes, and you hear that one nearly every time there's something to give in this community, Norfleet Homes or Country Way Town Center, right in the middle of it all. Representative Chuck Clemens, Senator Keith Perry, and U.S. Congressman Ted Yoho. That, and I probably missed a few. That's collectively the folks that came together, distributed these flyers, asked their team members to give, and had come into City Hall every day. Big load in there. The fire bay was filled up. It was delivered yesterday. So some of our firemen who are also involved in Newberry 4-H took a trailer load over and said that when they had arrived, they had depleted all of their resources the day before, ran out of everything. So we kind of arrived just in time, and we already have another round accumulating in the bay because the community just doesn't stop giving. So I just wanted to take a minute and express appreciation and brag a little bit on Newberry community. It's not a city government thing. This is just a community thing. Next, Newberry's Adult Cornhole League. We heard that there wasn't enough adult programming and recreation, so we put out the all-call, started an adult cornhole league, and after week 1, we have Newberry staff that are at the top of the leaderboard and some at the bottom of the leaderboard. Now, I'm not really going to raise my hand and tell you where I'm standing, but it's not looking down, let me tell you. So the chances of me walking away with a $150 season prize are pretty remote right now. I took a pretty severe beating. But it's not too late, and actually it'd make me feel a lot better if some of you less skilled at cornhole than I showed up, and I wouldn't feel so bad. Apparently this was a professional league, and I'm the only guy that didn't get that memo. So we're having a good time out there. It's Wednesdays. It's 7 o'clock at Easton Newberry Sports Complex. They had music. It was outdoors. The weather was great. We had a really good time. We are planning a joint meeting with the School Board of Alachua County We tentatively scheduled on Wednesday, December the 8th at 6 p.m. It'll be here. And we'll develop the agenda later, but we're thinking things like school expansion plans, redistricting.
December the 8th?
Yes, December the 8th.
That's a Saturday.
Oh, is it December the 6th?
That's a Thursday. That sounds more.
Help
we'll
me
get
out,
back
Wendy.
to you on the date with that.
It's December the 6th. Okay.
December the 6th.
Well, I didn't get anything right about this except the month and the time. All right, so Thursday, December 6th at 6. And if you can confirm now, great. If you can't, sometime this week, they want to lock it down on their side. And again, we're just trying I think the concept is for us to better understand what the school board issues are and what they're working on and how they impact Newberry and vice versa.
I want to reiterate that point, that this proposal for our two boards to get together, much the same way we get together with the county, was so that we could build a bridge to better understanding and talk about ways we can cooperate. Our legislative power doesn't extend past the Newberry boundaries. Theirs does. It's county-wide. So they've graciously accepted our offer. They think it's a good idea, and they're traveling here to meet with us. We're setting up this meeting to talk to each other about ways we can work together, ways we can cooperate together. It's not necessarily the venue to criticize each other. So I know that oftentimes we have disagreements on legislative policies they enact, or they may disagree with something that we do. But I'd like everybody to just kind of think about the reason that we're doing this, to see if there is a way that we can help each other in different avenues. If we don't feel like that spirit of this meeting can really be accomplished, then it might not be the best thing to move forward with, because we don't necessarily, I think there's lots of ways we can work together and cooperate, but we don't necessarily have to in the same way that we do with the county. The county, we have to work together. So just kind of keep that in the back of your minds as we move forward with this and what we're trying to accomplish here. Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, after consulting with our experts, I understand that it is Wednesday, December 5th at 6. And that's last and final. I won't change it again. Yeah, I sent an email today that said Wednesday, December 5th. Somewhere after I sent that email, I lost my mind, and I can't get it right down here. But it's Wednesday, December 5th at 6 p.m.
Okay. Third time's the charm. Let City Manager Amy know either now or by the end of the week. Yeah. She's always the default, All
right. Thank you. Last two items, I'll be traveling Wednesday to the Water Management District to work on issues that are very important in Newberry. And then on Thursday and Friday, I'll be traveling to Kissimmee to meet with Florida Municipal Electric Association so that we can get better at our craft and do a better job serving our residents. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, thank you very much for the commentary and the rating and the feedback that we received, and we will strive to get better. And I want to also thank my other charter officers. Judy, you make us look good, you and your staff, and we are very appreciative of that. Mike, you and your staff do the same for us. I think we make a good team in our effort, and hopefully we provide the support to both the city's charter officers and their staff, and also to you all commissioners. And just as a reminder, always call, because there's a lot of preventative things we can do, so don't ever feel like you can't make the call and ask if you have a question that's on your mind, and we can certainly hopefully provide you. And I couldn't be happier, again, with what was said about the addition of Rich with our group. He fits right in, he gets it culturally, and he really is just a great addition. So certainly appreciate all the effort you've made, Rich, as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Madam Clerk?
Right, there we go. Can you hear me? Amy always says I'm too far from the mic. So I do want to thank all of you for the evaluation and the feedback. I always, it is an honor and a privilege to serve you all and our citizens, our community. And I really appreciate the comments, and I will continue to strive to be a better city clerk for you all in our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Coleman.
Wednesday night, the Newberry girls volleyball team plays bowls for the regional playoffs.
Where do they play at?
They play at Newberry Gymnasium at 6 p.m.
How did they earn the right to play at home?
They went undefeated in their conference. They're unbelievable. I actually we were playing for the district championship last week, and I looked down and I seen this bald-headed guy with a beard, and it was our mayor right there in the middle of all this with a pom-pom and everything. It was great. He went berserk. I actually had more fun watching the mayor during this game than I did watching my daughter out there playing. But no, seriously, if you haven't been to a game, these girls are phenomenal. It's unbelievable how good this team is. Now watch them lose Wednesday night.
Hush your mouth.
Don't say that. But they're really good. This is their third. This will be they've had 3 in a row district championships, and they're really good. And this is actually a question for the manager. Are we going to, what part of, are we waiting till 19 to start having the workshops for law enforcement, or I'm wondering when all that's going to start?
I'll take that, because I put that conversation slightly on the back burner, so this conversation with the fairgrounds could be on the front burner. So after tomorrow, hopefully that conversation will move back to the front burner. We've got pretty much all the information that we need to present to you guys compiled at this point. So, but that was pretty much my call. I said, Mike, we gotta focus on this first.
Temple. That's it.
Commissioner Hersom?
I'd just like to say, I know I am proud of the actions that we took tonight regarding Canterbury and the future of our city. I appreciate all the work that staff put into providing us good, accurate information so we could make an important decision for Newberry. I am excited to join Commissioner Martin's excitement about our opportunity to move forward. I think we are on the cusp of great things in the city in terms of providing economic activity, jobs, and putting Newberry on the banner in terms of innovation from an agricultural standpoint. That would be important for Newberry, Alachua County, the state of Florida, and potentially worldwide.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth? Thank you, sir. Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Glanzer?
I want to thank everybody for wearing pink who wore pink in recognition of cancer awareness. And not to be trite, but I am tickled pink that we're all unanimous tonight in our vote. And up here, it's uncharacteristic of me to be so restrained. It really is, because I'm a kind of an enthusiastic person. So when we voted unanimously, I wanted to just like jump up on the dais and scream, because I really do think it's the best thing that is going to happen for the future of Newberry. So, and you can be glad I didn't do that. So anyway. Well, at one time. I even cut a trip short a couple days just to be here because I wanted to vote, and I'm so pleased that everybody was unanimous, and we look forward to working with the county on this project. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I've got a few. I'll try to go through them on the calendar. Tomorrow is when this issue goes in front of the county. So they air theirs through their website. So you can watch it there. If you feel passionate, you can be there and lend your voice to an equal unanimous vote from their board. On November 13th, I'm pleased to announce that Newberry High School, the city of Newberry, and one of our local businesses, Big Daddy Guns, is going to support a charity concert featuring Josh Taylor. He's a local Newberry musician who's just come out with a hit song called Hometown Strong. If you haven't heard it, it's a really good song. We're going to have a lineup of musicians. The idea is that you come to Newberry High School football stadium and you can bring a cash donation. You can bring a... Don't tell me that. We'll figure it out.
I think that was the bump from Veterans Day.
That's right, yep.
Well, we'll do a really quick meeting and then we'll get there. But we'll need everybody else to go while we're having the meeting, and make sure that you bring a food item, bag of diapers, something like that, and then just enjoy the show. If you haven't heard Hometown Strong, go listen to it, go see it, hear it live. On November 17th, we'll have the Mayor's Masters. It's the second annual. It's a golf tournament held at West End. And it's a golf tournament that's specifically to support veterans going into the holidays. The veterans group that will be receiving the money is Tin Can, who's currently up in the Panhandle helping people. So I'm not sure that they'll actually be at the tournament. It's always hard to get everybody because they may still be in the Panhandle. So once again, I'll need extra people to show up to play, have a good time. It's a scramble. It's for fun. Doesn't matter if you can golf or not. Come out, support people who spend their entire life supporting us. Then on November 18th, don't forget it's our next event in Truth and Reconciliation. We're asking all of our pastors in town to give a sermon that day about community, about love, about tolerance, and then for us all to join CLF at Lois Fort Park for Thanksgiving on the grounds. So we're hoping that it's a big event. So wherever you worship, hopefully you'll hear that same kind of message, and then right after church, come and join us, and let's just get together and commune together, fellowship together, and enjoy some good food with each other. So that's the 18th, 13th. I think that will do it for me, so we'll open it up to public comments. Anyone in the public want to make a comment? Come on down, sir.
For the record, Craig DeThomas is candidate for Alachua County Court Judge. If I can just share another minute with you all. I'm new to the political process. Late spring, the judge position came open, and I decided to throw my name in and qualified to run. And I'll just share one obvious thing, which is part of the political process is not all that attractive.